Here's the thing, nobody tells you at the start. The average couple trying to buy their first home together needs to save for 5 to 7 years longer than they expected. Not because they're bad with money, but because they never agreed on the plan in the first place. And look, I have spent years studying exactly where money stops being a spreadsheet problem and starts being a relationship problem the moment a savings goal turns into silent resentment, or a "we'll figure it out later" turns into one partner quietly giving up on the dream altogether. This is that conversation. The one about the house, yes, but really, it's about trust. So if you're new here, hit subscribe, because we talk about exactly this, the place where love and money collide. And by the end of this video, you're going to know the real reason most couples never actually save enough for a house together, and the 3 shifts that change everything starting tonight. Let's start with Maya and Toby. Composite couple, real pattern. Maya wanted a 3-bedroom semi in a quiet suburb. Garden, good schools nearby, the whole picture she'd had in her head since she was a teenager. Toby wanted a flat closer to the city, something smaller, something they could afford sooner rather than someday. Neither of them was wrong, but here's what happened. They never actually said any of this out loud. They just saved into the same account toward 2 completely different destinations. You know what that's like? It's like 2 people rowing the same boat, paddling as hard as they can, but one is steering left and one is steering right. Exhausting and slow. Why does this matter to you right now? Because if you've never sat down and described out loud in detail the actual home you're picturing, you might be doing exactly what Maya and Toby did, working incredibly hard toward a goal that doesn't even fully exist yet, because it's 2 different goals wearing one name. Here's something you can do tonight. Not next month, tonight. Each of you takes 2 minutes and describes your version of the house out loud. No judgment, no negotiating yet, just describing. You'll be amazed how different 2 same dreams can be. I'll be honest, when I first started noticing this pattern in couples I talked to, it surprised me how rarely people actually did this simple thing. We assume closeness means we already know. We don't. Now here's where it gets a little uncomfortable, so stay with me. Every couple saving for a house has what I call a silent number, the actual amount one partner has that the other partner has never seen written down. In one survey of couples buying their first home together, nearly 34% admitted they didn't know their partner's exact savings balance, even after living together for years. Take Priya and Daniel. Daniel assumed they were close to their deposit goal. Priya knew they weren't, because she'd quietly dipped into the savings twice for family emergencies back home and never mentioned it. Not because she was hiding anything malicious, just avoiding an uncomfortable conversation. That's usually what it is. Avoidance dressed up as privacy. Here's the plain truth, before any label gets attached to it. When there's a legal or financial term involved, say, a joint account reconciliation, all that really means is simply sitting down together and looking at the real, honest number, line by line. No surprises. That's it. That's the whole term. Why does this matter to you? Because the silent number always comes out eventually, usually at the worst possible time, like during a mortgage application in front of a broker, both of you finding out something new about the other in a room full of paperwork. Painfully public when it could have been privately honest. Tonight's actionable step. Pick one evening this week. Not tonight if you're tired, that's fine, but this week, and actually screen share your savings apps with each other. Real numbers, real balances. No commentary yet, just visibility. This one gets people defensive, so I'll say it gently. Splitting your house savings exactly 50-50 sounds fair, but it often isn't, and treating it like it's automatically fair can quietly build resentment on both sides. If one partner earns £45,000 a year and the other earns £28,000, a strict 50-50 split toward the house deposit means one person is giving up a much bigger slice of their actual life. Fewer nights out, less breathing room, more stress for the exact same number on a spreadsheet. Think about Kwame and Leah. Kwame earned significantly more. They split savings evenly, which felt equal, but Leah was skipping things Kwame never even noticed he could still afford. She never said anything because 50-50 sounded so reasonable on paper. Underneath, though, she was quietly starting to resent the whole house saving process. Here's a gentler way to think about it. Not equal contributions, but equal sacrifice. What percentage of your actual take-home pay is going toward the house? That's the real fairness question, not the raw pound or dollar amount. Something you can try today. This doesn't need a spreadsheet. Just ask each other. Does this feel sustainable for you? Or does it feel like you're white-knuckling it every month? That one honest question catches problems long before resentment does. I'll admit, this is the section I get the most messages about, because so many couples have simply never questioned the 50-50 default. It's not a rule, it's just a habit. Every couple I've talked to has a version of this story. The deposit was almost there, and then life happened. A car broke down, a parent got sick, a job fell through. On average, couples experience at least one major unplanned expense every 18 months while saving for a home, and without a separate buffer, that single event can wipe out 4 to 6 months of progress overnight. Consider Aid and Sophie. They were 3 months from their goal when Aid's father needed urgent medical costs covered. They didn't hesitate. Of course they helped, but they also hadn't planned for it. So their entire house fund took the hit. Not because they made a bad decision, because they never built a separate cushion for exactly this kind of moment. Here's the plain version before the term. What people call an emergency sinking fund is really just a second, smaller pot of money that exists so your house dream doesn't get raided every time real life shows up. That's the whole idea. Practical takeaway for tonight. Before you add one more pound or dollar to the house fund, build a small separate buffer first, even a modest one. It's the difference between a setback that costs you a month and one that costs you a year. Last one. And it's the big one. Most couples don't actually fail at saving for a house because of money. They fail because they avoid one short, slightly uncomfortable conversation. What happens if this takes longer than we think? Nobody wants to say that out loud because it feels like giving up before you've even started. But here's the truth. Couples who name that possibility early actually save faster, because they stop treating small delays as failures and start treating them as normal parts of the plan. Think of Jordan and Alex, who set a 2-year target and never once discussed what year 3 might look like. When year 2 came and went without a deposit, it didn't feel like we're a bit behind. It felt like we failed. That feeling alone almost ended things, not the missing money, the missing conversation. Here's your actionable step, and it's simple. This week, ask each other, if this takes longer than we planned, how do we want to feel about that? Just naming it removes almost all of its power. Here's a question most couples never ask until it's almost too late. Where does the money actually live? Is it in a joint account both of you can see, or is it split across 2 personal accounts with an unspoken agreement to add it up later? Take Nadia and Chris. They'd been saving for 2 years, each keeping their own portion in their own account, trusting the other completely. No malice, no secrets. But when it came time to actually apply for the mortgage, they discovered something painful. Chris's account had been quietly drained twice by a subscription and a family loan he'd forgotten to mention. Not hidden exactly, just never surfaced. 2 years of assumed progress turned out to be 6 months behind. Not because anyone lied, because nobody ever looked. Here's the plain language version before any label. What people call a joint savings vehicle simply means one visible pot with an agreed name on it that both of you can check any time without asking permission or feeling like you're snooping. That's it. Visibility, not control. Why this matters to you. Uncertainty about where the money lives quietly breeds a low hum of anxiety in a relationship, even when nothing is actually wrong. You start half-trusting your own progress, which is an exhausting way to save for anything. Something you can do this week? Open one shared, visible account, even if you keep some individual savings too, and agree that the house fund, specifically, always lives somewhere you can both see together in real time. I'll say this gently. The couples who struggle most aren't the ones with less money. They're the ones with less visibility into their own money. That's a fixable problem, and it's fixable tonight. Nobody warns you about the middle. The beginning of saving for a house feels exciting. Spreadsheets, house hunting apps, imagining paint colors. The end feels thrilling. Keys, moving boxes, celebration. But the middle? The middle is just quiet. Months and months of the number moving slowly, birthdays and holidays eating into it, and honestly, some weeks it barely moves at all. Think about Femi and Grace. 18 months into saving, they hit a stretch where the number on the screen barely changed for 3 straight months. No emergencies, no mistakes, just ordinary life being expensive. Grace started quietly wondering if they'd ever get there. Femi started avoiding checking the account altogether because it felt discouraging every time. Neither said anything, and the silence between them grew right alongside the slow-moving savings number. Financial behavior research consistently shows that couples are far more likely to abandon a savings goal somewhere around the 60% mark, not the start, not the finish, but right in that uncertain middle stretch where progress feels invisible. Here's the plain truth behind that. It's not that the goal became harder, it's that the emotional reward of watching a number grow slows down right when your patience is already thinnest. That's just how motivation works. For almost everyone, the actionable step here is small but powerful. Build in a tiny celebration at every 25% milestone. Not extravagant, just acknowledged. A dinner out, a walk somewhere nice, even just saying out loud, "Look how far we've come." It sounds simple. It genuinely changes how a couple experiences the middle. Honestly, I think this is the most under-talked about part of the entire process. Everyone prepares for the start and dreams about the finish. Almost nobody prepares for the middle, and the middle is where most couples actually need each other the most. So here's what all of this really comes down to. Saving for a house together was never just a maths problem. It's a trust problem, wearing a spreadsheet as a disguise. It's about knowing each other's real numbers, questioning the fairness you assumed was fair, building a cushion for the life that will absolutely still happen, keeping the money somewhere you can both actually see, and having the honest conversations before the pressure forces you to. And remember the middle, the quiet, slow, unglamorous middle, where nothing is going wrong, but nothing feels like it's happening either. That's not failure. That's just the part nobody talks about, and now you know to expect it, and even to celebrate your way through it, together. If any part of this felt uncomfortably close to your own story, that's not a bad sign. That's exactly the sign that it's time to talk, gently, tonight or this week. Not in some far-off someday. If this video helped, hit subscribe, drop a like, and share it with the person you're saving with. Sometimes the most loving thing you can send someone is a video that says the quiet part out loud for you. You don't need a perfect plan. You need an honest one. And honestly, that's already more than most couples ever build. You can build that too, starting with one real conversation.